Looking around, I finally see I think I need a change. The rat race, I wanna flee, my world I'll rearrange. I'm getting back to the roots of how it's meant to be. Growing gardens, picking fruit, racing livestock, living free. It's a modern homestead. Build a modern homestead.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Homesteading Podcast. I'm your host, Harold Thornborough, joined by
your other host, Rachel Jameson.
Glad you're joining us today. Today we're going to talk about those crappy winter day gardening projects.
Yes.
Because, you know, when it's crappy and it's winter time, you want to do something for the garden. I mean, it's just the way it is, right?
Right. And some of you are just starting winter, but winter has been here in the north for a little bit now here.
We're getting the temperatures here. We're definitely getting the temperatures here. I mean, we haven't had a lot of snow like you guys have had up there at times, but we definitely got the cold a few times. What's going on in your homestead?
Homestead, what did I do last week? Lots of venison harvesting and curing and stuff like that. And my little garden is going pretty good inside. And this weekend I took a beef butcher class.
Beef butchering class.
Yeah. So we harvested one steer in the field and brought it in and got it ready to hang. And then we finished off two that had already hung and been aged. So it was a very, very busy weekend outside in the cold. And I'm a little sore.
So now you know how to break down a cow, huh?
I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I certainly could make it happen.
You took lots of notes, I bet, didn't you?
It was like, I try not to be gruesome, but you don't really have, it would be messy to take notes. Let's put it that way. Yeah. You have to try to take a lot of mental notes. And
should just set up a tripod, put a camera on it, and just videoed the whole thing.
Yeah. What with the cold, my phone was dying pretty quick. Cold. It was, I think we had wind, like horrible wind, like wind advisories that day. And then I think it was like 21, but my phone said it felt like 14.
That's fun.
So it's really thankful for good outdoor gear. But even then I got a little bit cold, especially your hands. But
that's good weather to process an animal in. I mean, you ain't got to worry about bugs or anything like that.
When you're doing a homestead harvest like that, it's the best way because you don't have big coolers and
Yep. Absolutely.
So that's why they do it this time of year is when they do a lot of their butchering. It was so
how do you see that paying off for you in the future, knowing how to do that?
In the future, I don't know if I'll ever have cows, but I like to know where my food comes from. That was kind of one of my biggest goals is I feel like if I'm going to eat it, I should be willing to be a part of that process. For me, that's just kind of where my head is. I do think while I may not grow cows, it might be something where I help another friend. I have several friends with cows that are having issues getting animals into the slot to get butchered at a USDA facility. So, I mean, I might not be professional or anything, but I could certainly help them turn it into hamburger and some roasts and steaks. I'm not going to know all the special cuts. I don't remember. He told us, but wow, there's so much information.
I'll tell you how that knowledge has paid off for me. And I mean, I learned how to do that at a real young age. And obviously I don't have cows here on Urban Homestead, but it's actually saved us a lot of money over the years because I know how to do the cuts. I buy bigger bulk, pieces of, cow and break them down myself and put them away. And it actually saves you a lot of money buying it like that and breaking it down yourself.
Yeah, we do that now. Like, I don't know why it's so expensive to buy like hamburger, even conventional. I'm talking like you go to the store, hamburger is usually the cheapest cut. When you go get pork, if you want to make pork sausage and you want it ground, that's really expensive for some reason. But you can buy a whole piece bigger and you can grind it down. But that's kind of what we've done. The last few times we've gone and gotten a hog, we actually have bought we buy a lot of our meat through friends that raise them how we would like them raised, but we would buy bigger chunks of it and bring it home and process it ourselves. And that's probably what we'll do. It saves us some money. It helps a lot of time. It helps them out because all they have to do very little to it to sell it to us. And
Right. And honestly, if you can break down a cow, anything smaller breaks down in a similar way, only easier. So, I mean, that knowledge kind of transfers.
Yeah. Then you get what you want. There's nothing added to it. You know what is in your food. To me, that is,
yeah.
It's huge.
Worth knowing.
Yeah.
Can't take knowledge away from you. It's always good to have.
Yep. I can lose a lot of things. I mean, you can lose knowledge, I suppose. It's eventually, but it's a skill. Like if you don't practice something, you do tend to lose even the. Yeah. But I had a really good time. And here's the other thing too is, I met people that live locally that I didn't even know exist. The young man that was teaching the class was just so knowledgeable and really young. So I built community too. So,
Yeah, that's half the reason to go to something like that. Yeah.
Health. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I didn't do a ton last week. I did put last week's episode into practice a little bit and started cleaning up my garage, my workshop, my barn area here. I actually started putting some tools away and cleaning stuff. And that felt good. Still not totally done yet, but it felt good to start organizing some of my stuff, So that was my other than the normal greenhouse stuff. Did harvest some lettuce from some pots in my greenhouse.
Plants doing? Did it completely die?
Yeah, it's gone.
Did it?
Yeah, it gave up the ghost. It's over.
Oh dear.
That's all right. I kind of saw it happening. I didn't even think it would last very long anyway, because I knew I wasn't going to plan on keeping the temperature up high enough to grow tomatoes, but
that's a pretty
that's a tall order for a greenhouse with no insulation.
Especially
or anything.
As small as yours is. Like I mean, the bigger they are, the more thermal mass they can have. But when they're smaller,
Yeah. It's doing pretty good though. I mean, no water has frozen in there, and it's been down to 14 degrees. So, I mean, it hasn't gotten too bad in there, honestly. Too bad for tomatoes, but not too bad for the flowing aquaponics system, which surprises me a little bit. I was kind of worried about that when it got that cold. I thought, well, we're going to find out pretty early if this is going to flow or not. And it didn't have any problem at all.
Are you enjoying your little wood stove out there?
I haven't built as many fires as you'd think. I've been so busy.
Right.
I haven't really got out there. If I go out there and I'm actually going to spend some time out there, I make sure I get one going. But I just, honestly, I haven't. When it got really, really cold, I built some fires out there. But then it kind of warmed back up and it got in the 50s for a few days. And so it was about 85 in that greenhouse, with 50.
Yeah, it's done that here too. The weather has been crazy. We got all that snow and it was really cold, down to feels like 5 degrees. Just horrible. We got 2.5 feet of snow. Then it all melted and was like 60 degrees. And now it's back down and cold, just all over the place, which has not been good for my allergies.
Yeah, I mean, the same. They can probably hear it in both of our voices. We both sound a little scratchy here, don't we?
We're both trying not to cough into the microphone.
Yeah, we both turned our heads a few times. Well, that's the way it is. Well, it sounds like we both had a somewhat beneficial, productive week there, doing a few things. But, in the wintertime when it's really nasty outside, we can't do things outside, but we just got a hankering for some gardening project. There are some things you can do. And we're going to talk about that today. I really enjoy the difference of, I love working in the garden, but when you're busy with the garden, there's some things you just don't have time to do that are garden projects, right? So wintertime is a great time to do those things. And something I've done, because it seems like I've got this really bad habit of never having it enough and never making them, using them the way I should, is making garden markers. I always love to make those in the wintertime, but then I have a really bad habit of putting them out after I plant some seeds, and then I forget what I have growing somewhere.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's
so
a thing.
Yours, do you put the specific name on it? Because I see a lot of the cute ones on Pinterest, and they say tomato, and it's like, well,
I do. That's what I do. That's what I do. Well, that is obvious, but some things aren't. And none of it's obvious when it's an inch tall.
Yeah, right. So when I did my garlic this year, I planted 3 kinds and I did wood burning and I actually put the specific name on them because that's what I'm notorious for is I planted 3 kinds of tomatoes and then halfway through the year your marker fades and you can't read it anymore and you're like, which tomato was that?
So you did what you burned wood burn some last year? It's
my attempt. Well, no, I did it for the first time this fall.
Okay.
Okay. So it's my attempt to hope that everything I've tried so far, halfway through the year, the marker fades and I can't.
Yeah, I've had the same. Or I was wood burning on like the like the tongue depressor sticks, like the wider ones. And man, it looked great. The problem with those was the wood burning lasted, but those sticks are not
they fall apart.
Good for weather and they just rot away like really fast.
I mean, they're great because they're compostable, but they're not great because they compost so quick that the season.
Yeah,
that's what happened. Yeah. So that's what happened with my tomatoes is you could read them, but they were on what you were calling tongue. There's a better name for them, people, but we can't think of it.
The tongue depressors. I don't know what they are.
The tongue depressors or popsicle sticks. Yeah. And they've faded. Mine fell apart before. Like I would pull it out of the ground and the whole bottom of it was gone.
Yeah. They just rot away. I mean, they just out there and they'd be gone. I mean, you see a little, just what used to be a part of it sticking up out of the ground or something.
Yeah. So I was hoping the wood burning. So this time my husband, we had some tongue and groove that we installed in the house. And so we had some little pieces that are like odds and ends and most of them are about at least half an inch thick. So I took those out to the chop saw, chopped them and made one end pointy and then I wood burned on one end. So hopefully those last.
I'm doing something similar. I'm actually using my laser engraver though, which is a wood burner. And I'm doing the same thing, but I've also come up with another idea just recently. And I've seen people take rocks and paint rocks. Paint it on the rocks. But I've also seen them do that with like, heavier wood too, paint it and then put, actually paint it on there. But I thought, wow, this laser engraver I've got actually will engrave in like slate stone. And I thought, wow, I'll just
really
get some slate stone and then you can just lay them in the garden.
That's cool. I like that idea.
Yeah. And I just kind of thought of that here recently. I thought, I think that's what I might do is just put it on some slate.
Gadget.
But even if you don't have a laser engraver, I mean you can take a wood burner, a soldering gun and write in wood pretty good. I mean you could take some thicker pieces of wood and make you some stakes and engrave it in, or you could paint them and paint the letters on.
Paint that lasts
it'll actually hold up pretty good. I mean it'll last for a few seasons. I
know they have some special markers that you can use.
I don't think they work very good. I've tried some.
I don't either. So did I.
They still don't work. And I've tried pencil, I've tried pen, I've tried marker. None of it really holds up very well.
My friend Craig that I've talked about before, that was my mentor, said that if you use when I say a carpenter's pencil, it's the ones that don't roll, they're flat. You have to use
wide and
your
flat
knife to sharpen them. He says that those work if you use wood and you write really like hard on them.
Press it in there.
Those do not.
It's possible. I haven't tried that. Yeah, I've just tried regular pencil.
I guess I should try it. Yeah.
I like something a little more permanent these days. I keep thinking stuff I don't have to remake. So I think I'm gonna do the stone thing. But I mean, I've definitely been working on making them out of wood with the engraver and the burner. But I think I might try the slate stone and see how that looks.
Look prettier than mine. Mine are all freehand.
Yeah, I could actually put a little picture on there with my laser engraver and the word and make it all like really fancy and stuff.
That's fun. Well, I think I'm gonna buy a kit with that you can attach. I actually have a wood burner, but you can attach things like that. Actually, put letters that are a little more legible, and you don't have to.
Yeah, did you put a link? Those are the links you put in.
I did.
For letters
I think I'm going to do that for myself, just because some of them, like I said, I'm actually trying to put the actual breed on there. Too.
So it basically just heats that. It basically just heats an elephant up and brands it into
it's
the.
Basically branding the wood. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think if I like for example, I had 3 kinds of tomatoes. I only grew 3 kinds this year, but I got my orange jazz and another orange one mixed up because my sticks decomposed in my garden. And so then I had to go research online and look at pictures and decide which one was which. So I'm going to wood burn OJ, so I know it was the orange jazz.
You don't want to flip them over and put the Latin name on one side and the.
That would be a lot of letters.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
I think that's my goal. It's like one of my organizational goals, trying to be a little bit, if I do the work up front, maybe I won't be, excuse me. If I do the work up front, maybe I will save myself time in the long run.
I actually seen this guy. He runs a permaculture nursery, guy I follow on YouTube, and he takes old pop cans and cuts them out, lays them flat, cuts strips out of them, makes little tags, and then he just basically takes whatever pencil or whatever, but you groove it into the tin, into the metal, the aluminum, and it so it don't go away, obviously, and it's written in there, and then he just punches a little hole in it and ties it on stuff. He does it with trees and his old nursery trees and plants and stuff he's doing it with. But yeah, I mean, something like that, you could hang that from a stick or something, and stick
That's
out in your
a good
garden.
idea. I bought tags like that. They're copper with copper,
Yeah.
a copper tag. I did that out at my orchard to label all my trees. And it's the same thing. You press in and it won't go away because it's indented into the metal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that with my fruit trees so I could remember which kinds were which.
There's a lot of different ways you could make some markers.
But I like the idea of using a can just because it's thrifty.
Yeah. Yeah. You're using something that's getting thrown in the
Recycling.
trash anyway. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that'd be good stuff there. Another thing you can do besides garden markers is just sketch out your garden layout. Figure out what you're going to change, where you're going to put things. I mean, if anybody's like me or most gardeners, I think we're always looking to expand and change and move things around or add something new. Get the graph paper out and sketch out, kind of a close to scale layout of your property where you got trees and garden beds and might put a guild in here and, a more natural area over here for butterflies or whatever. I mean, just however you're going to do it, you could really sketch that out and get your layout down. It's a good time to really think through those things and where you're going to plant what and why you're going to plant it there, and really think about the sun and the wind, the microclimates and just all the elements and all the things, and really sit down and think it out and really plan out your garden. You can do that with some graph paper. You can also do it in a lot of digital ways too. There's a lot of online tools that you can use to kind of sketch out your property. Matter of fact, I put a link down in the show notes. And this is an article from freepermaculture.com, and it's 13 free tools for garden design. So
nice.
There's some digital tools in
I'll have to
there.
check that out.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do something like what I did in years past, because I'm not as computer savvy as some, and I like to actually draw things and stuff, is I have actually used graph paper, outlined my backyard, and then I use like one of those clear sheet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then you can draw several different ones instead of erasing all the time, and just kind of decide where you want things that way. And you can overlay it.
Yeah, I've seen people use like the pictures from like Google Earth zoomed in, and they'll do things like that and then draw it on there and print that out.
That's what I did. And I printed it off and I shoved it in there. I've done it with our property too. Unfortunately, an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper does not do 20 acres justice. So
yeah, you got to have a big printer. Go up now. Yeah, you could go up to a print shop, and it probably isn't that much to get a big thing made. And I bet it would just be a few bucks and have them put that on a big, something big that you could you'd almost have to lay on spread it out on a table, kitchen table or something, and get to work on it. But it'd be kind of neat to have something like that. Then it'd be cool to like frame it and hang it up and you're done.
It would be cool. I mean, and even in your yard, if you're small like we are, you can get pretty detailed and break each garden up into sections too, and then put it all together.
You can break down every guild and the different kinds of plants you're going to put around these trees and whatnot. Yeah, you could do a lot of really neat stuff. I mean, a full permaculture design, really.
I think you could have a lot of fun with it. I tend to have a lot of fun with that all winter long and kind of play out different. Do I want this here or there? And think about it all winter to try to.
Yeah. Put it on paper, put it on a computer, whatever, get it down. And it's a good time to do that when you're, I consider that garden work. It's stuff that you want to do. I mean, it's going to help you be a better gardener. What better day to do that on than a crappy winter day, right?
Exactly. I mean, and things change in your yard, like you were saying. I mean, your neighbor's tree grows, your neighbor puts up a garage, so your sunlight and everything changes.
You know, there's people who listen to this podcast that don't have winter and they're thinking, I don't even know what you're talking about.
They do have off seasons, though. They get
Yeah,
what,
yeah,
rainy
yeah.
season?
Yeah, you get a nice rainy day. That's when you're going to do this. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
You can also make a list of your garden supplies you need to get. I know I fail at this every year, and then I end up doing a whole bunch of running in the spring to get all the things I don't have
Right.
because I didn't make a list and I didn't get them ordered or didn't get them bought when I should have. And then I'm scrambling, to try to get this and get that and do this, and get my seeds in the ground and do all the things. And it's just one thing I didn't have to do. I could have made my list on one day or actually ordered them online or something one day.
Right.
Or while you're at a nursery or something, pick them up through the winter. Know what you need before you need it.
Right. That is a really good, because things change too. Like this local store might carry something this year, and then next year they're not carrying it. And
Yeah.
that could still happen, but it's nice to do it before instead of that scramble. Because I do the same thing every year. I scramble and it's like, oh, I forgot to pick up seed trays and mine are falling apart, or
I felt
whatever.
really, I felt really good this last winter because I actually ordered all my hoops. I actually bought hoops and my row cover, and I had all of it already bought and put it and waited. I was just waiting for it, and I was proactive on that, and I got it. And of course, there was 50 things I wasn't, but that one I felt really good about.
Yeah. But that's a great way to do it. Well, like you've mentioned it, and so I need to order some. It was in your show notes from last week, but this certain person that has better seed trays, and I'm like,
Yeah.
some of those,
Now I'm escaping me the name of it now, but
And then next on the list, you have make your seed list, which you have a link in here to I think it's one of your blogs.
yeah,
Companies.
the best seed companies. And in that post, I have each one of them companies have where you go to get their free seed catalog. There's a few of them on their online catalogs, but most of them in there actually have a mail out catalog they send to you for free. So get those in the mail. If you have not done that yet, go to that blog post and get signed up for those and get them on the way, because those are just great to have. I mean, when the day comes when you're going to want to sit there and flip through and kind of figure out what you want to plant, figure out what seeds you need to get. So have all those catalogs ordered and ready, and you'll get most of them for free. There's Baker Creek has one free one. They also have a paid one that you can buy. That's honestly worth getting. I think. It's a really nice catalog, but the free one's great too. And get all the free ones for sure if you're not going to do anything else.
Yeah, their catalog's definitely almost like a coffee table catalog. The pictures are so beautiful.
Yeah, and not just seeds. You added on here. Think about what tubers you need, your starch, trees, bushes. Go ahead and start thinking about all that stuff you're going to want to buy, or start ordering it. Put your orders in. A lot of that stuff they won't even ship until the time's right anyway.
Yeah, and you can also split up your costs that way if you pay for some, a little bit here and there instead of this huge purchase in the spring. But I mean, you're planning your yard and your gardens anyways. That's a great time for you to decide what kind of tree or bush that you want to put and buy. Yeah.
You added in there something I didn't even think about, and that's barter and trading. I mean, I assume you're just talking about getting with other people with seeds and having, seed swaps and
Yeah, it's a really good time to do that. I mean, I think somebody is mailing me some elderberry cuttings right now. So
supposed to be there today, by the way.
Yeah, so it's a great time to sit and I mean, right now one of the groups I'm in a really small group that's based out of Michigan, and we're all putting together a list of things that we have that are extra that we want to barter within the group and trade. And now's the time to sit and go, okay, what do I have extra of to share with somebody? Walking onions, or I have ashwagandha seeds, some of these ones that are a little bit harder to find.
You ain't gonna try to get people to take your comfrey that
I actually have people that want my crazy comfrey.
Do they know it's that kind of comfrey?
Yes, I explained to them that you will not control it no matter how hard you
we got two different kinds of comfrey, and your kind I don't want on my property.
I know. I need to get, so I don't even know if I want it on my new 20 acres. So I'm working on getting the other variety to
Yeah.
plant in my tree guilds out
If
there.
I was pasture raising animals, I would absolutely want it.
Yeah,
You
see,
know?
that's why but
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait. I'm still thinking about it. I have all the time in the world
Yeah.
to move what I have because I have thousands of babies every year. And so
Yeah.
I need to
Got
find
it
a
if you
young.
want it. You just need to put,
Yeah.
some in a pot and then conceal it to where it can't blow any seeds out and
On
hang
a
on to
cement
that.
pad with no cracks. That's the only way it's not going anywhere. And then put a little bubble over it so the seeds
Yeah.
don't go
Screen
anywhere.
screen it in with like really fine screen, like you put in a screen door so it can't get any wind to it or any.
Consider the kind of comfrey that I have comparable to the goat.
It'll get out. Yeah.
It will get, there is nothing that will keep it in. Yeah. So,
And
but
comfrey is my favorite plant, but not that kind of comfrey.
I have the wild kind that spreads by seed and root.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I need to get some cuttings from you or some friends because I
Yeah.
want
I
the
would have sent you
more
some. I didn't even think about that. I would have put that in the
containable.
box.
Yeah. I want some more containable kind to put in my fruit tree guilds.
I'll hook you up with some for sure.
But
Yeah, it's a great time to everything seeds, everything plants. Just sit
yeah.
down,
Yep.
figure out what you want, get the catalogs, just get those things ahead of time. Don't wait till the last minute. And also, who knows? I mean, we don't know the current situation. We don't know if when spring gets here, are you going to be able to get seeds? Is there going to be a shortage?
Right. I mean, there
Who
has
knows?
been, I don't want to call it a shortage. But because I believe probably because homesteading has grown by leaps and bounds in the last few years, you're having people, the seed companies are having a hard time keeping
Yeah.
up. And
Well,
specific breeds that people absolutely love are going out of stock pretty
there's a
quickly.
lot of fear-based purchasing too. People
Yeah.
get them because they don't know what's coming, so don't wait till the last minute, I guess is.
Yeah, definitely. If you can order now, I mean, stuff like your fruit trees. So last year I did order my fruit trees in December. Not so much for fear that they were going to go up, but I knew the price would probably go up, which they
Mhm.
did. They went up like 40% from when I purchased them, but they didn't mail them till 4 months, 5 months later, but I purchased them. So, you can do stuff like that.
Mhm. You ever just open up your seed drawers and just look at your seeds in the middle of winter and go, oh, what's that? And just kind of go through them and think about planting. And
Yeah. Yeah. You pet them like a pet. No, I don't have seed drawers. I have boxes and boxes full of seeds.
Yeah.
Well, and I do have my one drawers for some of them, but yeah.
I think I said on the last episode, I put mine in those filing
Yeah.
boxes and open them up, and I can go through the files and I pull them out and I got plenty of these and I don't have so many of these. And I start taking an inventory on what I have. And
Yeah.
it's nice to see what you have and how old they are. I always have the dates on them
Yeah.
because I'm thinking, well, those are probably getting where they're not going to germinate very good. So I need to replace some of those. And, I do an inventory. It's a good time to do that as well.
Yeah. I had my pea seeds, which are kind of old, that I tried to start in my indoor garden. They didn't germinate. And I knew they might not because they were pretty old. But
yeah,
I keep my bigger seeds like corn and bean seeds. I keep those in a filing cabinet.
yeah, jars.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a great time to think seeds, think about what you're going to grow, think about getting all that stuff. So you added in here we talked about this last week. It's one of the things you can do as far as taking care of things, sanitize and clean your trays and your gardening tools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a great time to do that. I mean, it's going to have to be done. Why wait till spring and when you're busy?
Yep. It's a perfect time to do it. And you can inspect them too and see if you need to order them. Are they cracked? Because sometimes you don't realize how cracked and brittle they are till you start washing them because they get brittle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they absolutely do. I got all kinds of pots. I'll buy these cheap plastic pots because they're cheap and you get big ones really affordably because big giant pots cost a lot of money.
Yes.
So if you want to, when I buy big ones, they're usually those cheap ones. Well, after about 2 years in the sun, them things are so brittle.
Yeah, exactly. That's what even the really good ones, I bought decent ones, which is why I'm interested in buying these other ones to see if they last longer. I paid a little bit more money for some 10-20 trays, which are for everybody. Those are when you go to the store and they have the seed or the seedlings, those are those 10-20 trays. They're like they're basically 10 by 20 inches.
I was going to say 10 by 20 inches. Yeah.
I bought some more expensive ones, and instead of lasting a year, they did last 3.
Yeah.
They're getting brittle and falling apart. The sun beats on them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a better investment to buy the ones that are a little bit more expensive, and they just hold up a lot better. I mean, them cheap ones are, I mean, if that's all you can afford and they'll get you started, do it, get them.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, you just think about now, if you have to, if that's all you can get, it's all you can get. But if you get the money and you start thinking ahead and, thinking you're going to want to use stuff for a few years, definitely it's worth the investment to
or
get
you
some
want
bigger
those
stuff.
Gifts for Christmas.
Mm-hmm. There you
those
go.
on your list?
Yeah. There you go. What do you have in mind on organizing your garden supplies?
Well, for me, I think, you and I have this, we have lots of them, and we've talked about how we have them in totes. So I have row cover, I have shade cloth, I have clothespins that I use for those. And I don't know, I have, just all sorts of little things. I have, I do have a pH tester that has little tablets, just all those things, organize them and have them ready so that when spring comes, you're not looking for, like I have done so many times, which one of these 12 totes is my shade cloth in? Which one is my row cover in? And you're taking them all down and you're wasting time. So I
had an experience like it this year. I had a box of those tomato clips somewhere, and I couldn't find them. I didn't know where they were. And I was getting ready to order me another box, and then I just happened to run across them. Like, oh, there they are. But if I'd have been more organized, I'd have knew right where those were.
Yeah. So we're working on that. And I think I talked about the QR in our last episode.
The
QR. And there's several ways to organize it, even if you just write on the outside of the box. But just doing all that, going through it, organizing, see if you need new tomato clips, because what if you broke several and you don't have enough? If your row cover got tore, maybe you need new or you need to repair it.
Yeah.
I use I use trellis a lot because my yard's pretty small, and I use like this fabric tomato trellis. And sometimes that stuff lasts forever, but some of mine has started to go brittle after like 6 or 8 years now, and I need to buy new. Yeah. So, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Know where it's at and know if you need to get more or not. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now the next thing is something you and I, this is definitely what we do in the wintertime. Of course we do it. If you're a blogger and a podcaster, you're kind of doing it year round, whether you intend to or not. But I tend to do a lot of reading, studying, research, watching stuff, learning stuff. I do a lot of that in the wintertime, a lot more than I do in the summer for sure. Yeah. Breaking out the books, and
it's just easier in the winter. I mean, where we are, our gardens go complete. I mean, if you're like in Hawaii, you're not going to probably experience this, but where we are, we get snow, everything dies, and you basically have, 2 to 4, maybe even longer. Up here, it's sometimes 5 and 6 months of time that you're not in the garden, at least for the most part. And so that's when I do a lot of reading and research, and
some of it's for fun, some of it's because we just enjoy reading about that stuff, but also I get specific sometimes. I mean, if I'm growing a certain plant and I don't know a lot about that plant, or a tree I've just planted this last year, and I'm like, okay, I need to know how to prune that. And I might find stuff, that's very specific on that plant or tree or bush, and try to learn all I can about that, and
exactly.
I do a lot of that in the wintertime.
Just try some YouTube channel of some expert that does it. It's a time to maybe find somebody locally that does it and learn from them.
Yeah. Of course, we don't have to do that now. We just invite somebody on the podcast that knows about it, and we get free teaching that way. So it works out pretty good.
It's a great way to do it. Yeah. Yeah. And and it's just a time to build your community and learn some skills that in the summer, at least for me, and I know for you in the summer, I don't have as much time to build skills and such because it's just busy with working.
It's got a lot going on. Yeah, absolutely.
Winter is just the time for us to do that. And
unless you can get that community to come and help you pull weeds, and you can have some time together while you're doing that.
That would be great. Like a community weed.
Yeah.
Somebody does that. You can call us or contact us. We'll have you on the podcast so we can organize that locally.
But we'll have you in person on the podcast, because that way you can pull some weeds before we have the chat. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's a great time to gather free resources. And what do we mean by
Yeah.
that, Rachel?
I meant like cardboard and pallets and paper. Like if you use cardboard in
Hmm.
your walkways and
Yeah.
um it takes a while to gather. I mean, some boxes are better for composting than others. Like we just got we got an Amazon box and it was all colored and white and had printing all over it. I probably wouldn't compost that or use that in my garden. But the
Right.
generic brown ones,
Hmm.
it's just a great time to because it takes a while to save them unless you're going to go find a resource where you
And
can get a bunch at one
and
time. But
as
for
you
me,
get
I
them,
just slow
yeah.
them.
A little hint too, as you get one or two or three at a time, go ahead and remove the tape and the stickers.
Yep.
Don't just pile them up and then try to do all that at once, because that is a lot of work getting all them
Yeah,
stickers
it'll
and
drive you
tape off of a
crazy.
big pile of boxes that you're going to lay down. That's a lot. It takes forever. Do it one at a time as you
Yep.
get them, and it goes a lot smoother that way.
Yeah, and pallets. I mean, you have,
Hmm.
I should have looked for it and researched it, but I know that you have a blog post on which pallets work better. And so maybe you
Yeah,
can
we've
add
talked
that to
about that
the,
and shared that
yeah.
before. Yeah.
And so it takes a while to resource the probably some clean pallets that you actually would want to use for.
Well, anymore, most of them are heat
Are they?
treated and they're not
Okay.
chemical treated, but it still depends on what they've had sitting on them. If it's been something that's
Right.
been leaking on them
Yeah.
or something too,
Exactly.
you want to look for stains and things like that.
Yeah, and depending how many you use, it might take you a little bit to get good ones. Like I see them a lot of the time on the road side of the road that are
Mhm.
free, but a lot of times those are broken. So it depends on what you want to use it for. It's just a
And
good time to start gathering, and
yeah, and
you're going to
also,
start looking a little bit like a hoarder, but that's
yeah,
how it goes.
but be thinking about this too through the winter. Keep your eye on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace for free things that you think you could possibly use. People give away things that
Yep.
all the time that I mean, sometimes you see people giving away, like, maybe they've cut down an oak tree or a tree that
Yeah.
you want, and you're thinking firewood, but maybe you want to make like mushroom logs out of those or something. You could
Sure.
go get those and be free source of that stuff. I mean, there's just always
Right.
people are always giving away things. Free
Yeah, or
cycles, another one. Yeah.
leaves, and
Yeah.
I mean, just so
Yeah.
much stuff that as homesteaders we can kind of start to hoard and then use in the spring.
Yeah.
Or
It's
like
nice if you got a shed or something you could pile, or a garage, you could pile that stuff up in, but
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, it does start to feel like you've got a lot of stuff hanging around.
yeah, for
But
sure.
they do use it does save money and helps the environment. And
Yeah, when I was building my pallet beds years ago, and I was kind of bringing in these pallets, and I had this huge pile of pallets back here behind my garage, and I was thinking, yeah, that's something you have to consider, because you're going to have to pile those things up somewhere before you get to building your project, and I had it looked kind of bad for, a few weeks while I was piling them up, until I started building
right.
my beds out of them, but it worked really well. It saved me a ton of money, but there's a trade-off there, so.
Right. And I mean, and the reason everybody thinks, I guess the reason I said to look for like pallets, not so much cardboard, but pallets, is because my husband's work gets a considerable amount of them in,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a battle to beat people to them. I don't know what everybody's doing with them, but my
Yeah.
husband tried for weeks to get us get some, and there was somebody always beating him to the pile because
Yeah.
they're taking them home. I don't know if they're burning them or if they're turning them into
Probably, yeah.
signs or what they're doing with
Yeah,
them, but
yeah.
they aren't as easy sometimes to find.
Well,
People have
yeah, ever
been
since
turned on to
lumber,
'em.
ever since the price of lumber skyrocketed,
Yeah.
pallets are getting harder to find. So if you find a good source for some free pallets,
Yeah.
hang on to that if you can, because they're worth getting your hands on for sure. I see people selling them now, people getting big truckloads of them and selling them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not
Well,
for a
and
lot.
that
I
kind of
mean,
moves into our next one where it was have a list of places where you can source things because,
yeah,
I mean, just knowing, okay, I can go to this place and this place to get compost. I can go to this place to get pallets. I can go to this place to get mulch, or I can call this place and they'll deliver mulch from trees they took down.
you start lining that up, and you might even get those delivered through the winter time too. Get a hold of
Right.
them. They're out cutting trees all winter, usually because of power lines and whatnot. They got to have a place to dump that stuff. So maybe they'll bring it out and dump it on your property.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's stuff you can do instead of waiting till you need it. I'm speaking from experience.
Mhm.
Instead
Oh,
of
yeah.
waiting till you need it, trying to find, somewhere local to get all this is, and it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be local, but usually especially these more heavy items like
Yeah.
compost, it's usually cheaper to get locally than it is to
And
like ship it and stuff.
it's not just figuring out the places too. Go ahead and figure out how much you're going to need. Um, how much compost are you going to need for your garden? If you're not making your own compost, or you're going to have to go buy it all. How much do you need? How much mulch are you going to need for your garden paths or whatever? Go ahead and figure that out. I actually wrote it. Matter of fact, I'll put it. I don't have it in these notes that we've done already. I'll add it to the notes. I wrote a blog post a few months ago on how to calculate exactly how much compost you need for your garden.
Oh, now I have to go read that.
Yeah, and I have it. It's actually got a calculator in there, so you just punch in. You just punch in the width, length and width of your. It'll automatically tell you how many. It'll break it down in bulk load. It'll break it like how many tons, or it'll break it down in bags, like 40-pound bags for you. So I have that. It's a calculator I put in there that does all that down for you. So go ahead and figure out how much compost you need, and go ahead and have that ready to go. So, when the time comes, you can get that down. So.
Yeah, and it also helps like the supplier, instead of that crazy spring rush, you kind of we kind of can keep them a little bit busier through the winter. And yeah, absolutely. But having that stuff ready is just, I don't know about where you guys live, but where I live, spring arrives when it feels like it. It's never on time. I mean, we can have spring start anywhere from March.
Yeah, then it's a mad rush.
Some years it doesn't start until the end of May. I mean, we just never know. And so it's
funny too, because everybody's always so anxious around here when it's not. It's still definitely not ready to be gardening yet, but yet everybody's in there buying everything already, getting ready for it. And it's kind of funny. People are out planting their gardens before they, knowing there's going to be 20 more days of freezing temperatures.
Right. They went and bought all their tomato plants, but
I've jumped the gun before. I'm definitely a little more patient now. I just I'm gonna wait.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I have a row cover, is because I get a little impatient. It buys me a little time, not a ton.
I've had to completely replant a garden before. So
Yep.
And I'm talking plants. Like I grew them in my greenhouse, started them, had plants, put them outside, didn't get them covered up and everything.
Oh, no.
Just didn't get on it one day when had to be gone. And it hit it and killed everything. And I had to completely start over.
Wow. Yikes.
Yeah. So I've been there.
We get anxious. We get excited to get our hands in the dirt.
That's why we need to do these things, have these days, through the winter that kind of keep us fulfilled a little bit, so we don't get so antsy in the springtime.
Well, that's part of the reason that kind of goes into our next one, is growing food indoors. That's part of the reason why I grow inside, not just because I enjoy eating fresh food, but because, man, I just need to work my fingers into some soil.
It scratches the itch, don't it? Yeah, you got to do it. I mean, you got to be growing something all the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I feel the same way. We did an episode 161 here a while back on indoor vegetable gardening. Go check that out if you didn't catch it. We talk all about growing your food indoors, so there's a lot of ways to do it that aren't difficult. So, we just wanted to put that out there, that's absolutely something you can do on a crappy winter day, is grow some food in your house. I mean, it's absolutely doable.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
So it's something worth doing. I also think if you're not composting, it's a great time to get started with vermicomposting in your house. People think, I don't want to compost in my house, but it actually doesn't smell if you do it right. It doesn't have any stink. It's not like messy or anything. You can actually buy, I put a link. I just found this one too. It's a link I put. You'll have to check it out, Rachel, if you didn't see it. There's that Verma hut in there. If you look at the picture of that, I think it looks really neat. I hadn't actually seen one of those before. It's a 5-tray worm compost bin. Now you can make your own. You'll want to, if you go onto YouTube, look for the flow through design. It's a little bit.
Oh, that's not a bad price either.
Now I'm at $100, but I mean, it looks like it's a pretty big vermicomposting stack there, and it looks like it catches the worm juice, which would be really valuable in a garden. Yeah, so it has a spigot on it.
See, I do not. I made an attempt to do this once, and it didn't go well. But you do this.
Well, I don't do it in the house now, but I'm thinking I might get that compost bin there and try it in the house. I actually have an old bathtub I converted into one.
Do they stay alive through the winter? See, because here I think they would freeze.
They're not active, but they're alive. Okay. Yeah, they're not real active, though. Yeah, they need some heat. But Thing is, you can collect your kitchen scraps, get you one of these little compost buckets to throw your scraps in. Now, those are really nice. You can put them in any bucket or whatever. But if you want to let them sit there a couple days, those actual buckets that are made for it, and I'll put a link in the show notes, they actually have a charcoal filter on the top of them with a lid, and it will keep the smell down if you think there's going to be any smell. I've never smelled ours. We got one, and I've never smelled anything coming from it. And I take it out there and dump it in the vermicompost or the regular compost with that. And we just collect all of our scraps. And it's a good time to do that. Be thinking about learning about worm compost bins. You can build one, like I was getting to say a minute ago. Look on YouTube for what's called the flow through designs. And you use just totes to make them. And what's good about those is it's easier to harvest the worm castings. So through a flow through design, you can actually just take a tote and throw your food scraps in it and throw your worms in there and make it, but it's a lot harder to harvest the castings out of a system like that. But if you build the flow through design, it's a little bit better.
Is it similar to the one that you posted for Amazon?
Those are more of a rotation style, I think. Okay. And so I think you still have to sift through the to get the castings out. Where a flow through, you just have to see. I don't even want to try to describe it on the podcast because words.
Right.
It's really something you have to see. It's like you use two totes and you kind of set them inside of each other, and you can just empty the castings out that way. The castings will fall through into the bottom one. But it's a pretty simple design, but it works better for harvesting the castings. So it's a better one to build. It's the one I built when I was doing it in the house, but then I just moved that out there into the to the bathtub setup I made.
Square footage is a premium in your
house. Yeah, it is. We like to. Well, I was actually doing it in the basement, but I don't like going down there all the time, so I just like I put
it next to my food that I'm growing in my basement. I'm out there every day anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably work really well. Yeah, that'd be neat. Yeah. Have it right there too, and be able to take advantage of the castings right there in your especially if you get. I know you usually set up like a seed starting tent in the spring, don't you? So you could actually use them castings right in that to get your seeds,
I don't have a greenhouse as much as I would like one. I don't have one. Yeah.
Well, before I had one, inside. I didn't build a tent. I just took over the kitchen table.
Right. That would be great. I think that do you have anything else to add? I mean,
no, I think that there's probably other things you could be thinking about as far as just garden day activities. I think this is a good start. This will keep you. I mean, I guess if you live in Michigan, you might have more crappy winter days than the average person, but this is probably enough things for most people.
Well, this is the garden stuff. I mean, there's other things I do like and
these are things that'll keep your mind on gardening, keep you active for the garden on a day when you can't really do anything else for your garden. You want to you got a hankering for some garden activities. It's too nasty to do it.
Yeah.
Pick up one of these things and run with it.
I look out my garden and it's got 4 feet of snow on it.
There was a couple things in the links that you added that I wanted to ask you about. Now, we were talking about cleaning the trays. And last week we had talked about using peroxide to clean the trays. And I assume that's why you put that link in the show notes for the difference between a food grade peroxide and a regular peroxide.
Yeah. And the reason I put that in there is because I didn't know if we had any people that were ascribing to be organic growers, like certified or.
Okay.
If they're going to the farmer's market and saying that they grow organically, I don't know. It's up to you, the listener. But there is a difference between food grade peroxide and the.
Do you use the food grade peroxide to clean your trays?
I do. Little goes a really long way. I think it's 1 to 11.
I'm going to admit that I didn't even know there was a food grade peroxide.
Yeah, they use some additives and stabilizers in the brown stuff, where the food grade is just pure.
Okay. It's good to know. I didn't realize that.
I mean, there's some things that I use that aren't exactly organic. I try to be as clean as possible, but I just thought I'd give people the information if they wanted it.
Yeah. And now the way I do it, I mean, I'm spritzing them, it's drying, it's setting for weeks before I ever put anything in them anyway.
Exactly.
It probably isn't an issue the way I was using it, but I didn't know there was a food grade peroxide.
Well,
so I think I will look into that actually.
Yeah. And some people use them if some people will have issues with mold when they're growing microgreens.
Mm-hmm.
And so use peroxide.
Yeah.
This would definitely be maybe a little bit.
Well, I've seen you link to an article on the difference between the
Yep.
food grade versus a regular for plants. So that could be really useful. Go check that out, folks. You have a link in here for the almanac, and because of some layouts.
Yeah, they had a bunch of different garden layouts. I thought that was great for, especially for beginners and you're
Yeah.
feeling just totally overwhelmed. If you just want something that just has, here's the layout of, this little garden with some cabbage. And I mean, sometimes it's nice when you're just starting and overwhelmed to just have somebody tell you what to do.
Have some ideas for a garden layout. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then you can just consider things. Yeah. And I have a link to a blog post I wrote on planting your spring. Actually, that is a blog post, but it's also a podcast that I did a long time ago on planting your spring garden. So it just talks about some different design elements and things to consider when laying out your garden. You also have a planner in here from Clyde's Garden Planner.
Yeah. It's like a slide. So you find your last frost date for your area. So it works for all grow zones.
Okay.
And it will tell you when to start plants inside or outside. It's pretty handy. I got it as a gift for a couple of friends that were starting gardening, and for my mom that was starting gardening a couple of years ago. And it's a handy little thing for newbies.
There's so many great tools out there online that you can just use for free. It's amazing. Yeah,
it is. This is pretty sturdy if you just wanted something. But there is free stuff too. Like if you put in, I can't remember, maybe it's even the Almanac has it. There's several different websites. If you just put in your zip code.
Yeah.
It will give you
growing zones and
it will give you start inside, start outside, by seed or by plant. It'll give you almost all the information. Now, some of the more interesting varieties like you and I grow, or some of these more permaculture plants, they may not have in there, but you can usually go by breed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely something you want to do. You definitely, if you're going to plan your garden, you got to consider all the things. You got to think about the dates, when you're going to put stuff in, what you're going to have to protect, what you don't have to protect. There's some things you can plant, and a light frost isn't going to hurt it at all. Some things that will kill it dead. So,
and there's certain seeds that won't even germinate until the soil's a
certain temperature. That's right.
Yeah.
So, you definitely want to plan out your garden. No, we don't want to try to make it sound difficult or anything, because
no.
It's not. But there's just some things to consider that you definitely want to look up and consider.
But having success helps you want to keep going. And just not planting too early does help you have better success. And
I always recommend those
rewarding.
real easy plants like radish and lettuce. And
yeah.
You said you can't grow radish very good though up there.
I just haven't. It's probably me. I just haven't been able to. So I do. That is something I thought maybe it was something I needed a little bit more laser focus on. So it is something I'm growing in my winter garden right now.
Okay.
My winter garden's super small, and I figure if I can just pay attention better to it, maybe I can develop a skill to grow them.
I always like to plant a few of those things, even if I don't eat a ton of them, that grow really fast. Because they just give you that initial boost, that's like, oh yes, I already got stuff I'm harvesting just a couple weeks into planting, basically.
Yeah,
I love that.
Radishes are that. They
super fast. Yeah. It's one of the first things you'll get out of your garden for sure. But anyway, lots of good information there. Go look it up. And don't waste those nasty days. Get out there and get in your house even and do something garden related that, it's going to benefit you in the springtime for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all I have. You have anything else you want to add?
I think that's it. I can't think of anything.
All right. Well, folks, thanks for joining us today. And until the next episode, happy homesteading and God bless.
And grow where you're planted.
Looking around, I finally see I think I need a change. The rat race, I wanna flee. My world I'll rearrange. I'm getting back to the roots of how it's meant to be. Growing gardens, picking fruit, racing livestock, living free. It's a modern homestead. Build a modern homestead. A lot of folks don't understand why I wanna live this way. They've never eaten from their land like we do here every day. Snapping beans like Grandma did, sitting on her front porch. Hunting and fishing like a kid once you've done all of your chores.